I'm Molly Kendall from the Co-op Federation, and I've got one of our beautiful members, Lyndall Paris, who's the founder of Narara Eco Village, who's a member of the Co-op Federation, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what cooperatives look like in an eco village context. Narara is a wonderful example of successful eco village. So Lyndall, would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, thanks, Molly. Thanks very much for having us. And hello, everybody. Narara is a suburb just north of Sydney, about an hour north of Sydney. It's on the north-south rail link between Sydney and Brisbane, so it's wonderful in terms of public transport. The land that we actually purchased to do this housing development, was sold by the New South Wales government. It used to be the Horticultural Institute, and lots of agricultural research was done here for about 100 years or something. So they put it on the market, and there's a legendary story about how we got that and the global financial crisis and how we overcame this and that, so it's a real hero's journey in many ways, even if I do say so that myself. And so in 2012, we signed a contract with the New South Wales government, and we paid the $5 million in 2013. I must say that we were very excited to do that, because to this date, we don't have a bank involved, and we actually use future residents' money to actually do the development and progress the project. And it's one of the big secrets of our do I ever say that we're successful? I don't know if I'll ever, be happy to say that word. But yes, certainly. So now there are about, let me think, 45 houses built here out of 60 from stage one. And so the other 15 are being built here. There are about 100 people living on site, all up, that have joined the cooperative and are going to be joining us in stage two, which is nearly sold out, which is pretty interesting, even during this COVID time of difficulty getting people on site and that. Pretty interesting. There are now 240 of us, and about 50 of those are children under the age of about 17. So does that give you a little bit of background, and to ask me for sure if you'd like more?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful base to start off from, and what a lovely thought that there's so many kids there. That must be
Yeah,
really
we had
vibrant.
a baby born in their bathroom a couple of weeks ago. Not meant to be born in their bathroom, but which was pretty nice. And then our oldest member is 80, and we have nobody in their 20s, and then they come back in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and kind of that makes sense. I mean, even with my family, nobody in their 20s was interested, and yet there's one family already living here of mine. My daughter and my son, one of my sons is coming to live here with his family in the next year or so. So, and they're definitely in their 30s, in late 30s. So I think that makes sense. 20-year-olds are elsewhere, and rightly so, perhaps.
And if you're looking for signs of success, I think having fostered a climate that brings your children back to you, I think that's probably the measure. So
Well,
congratulations.
we'll see how long they stay.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay, so I am really interested in the co-op model. Some of the people watching this will be our members from supplier co-ops, or from home care co-ops, or from food store co-ops, let's say, and they're all going to have a different measure for participation and what membership looks like for them. So they might be interested to know what membership looks like in a housing context of an eco-village.
Yes, okay, fair enough. So in 2012, when the property was bought back on the market again, after it was taken off the market after the global financial crisis of 2008, it came back on the market, and we were still as keen as anything to sort of get this and to be the next custodians of this beautiful piece of land here. And we didn't know how we were going to do it, because, a bank wasn't interested in us. And yet over the years, we had built up a bit of a database. So we just said, okay, this is it. It's put up or shut up. Well, how are we going to do this? And we have to have an entity. Oh my gosh, what entity will we have? And we can't just pass the hat around, we'll end up in jail. So we have to have an entity. So we sort of thought about different entities, and we weren't that interested in a company structure. We didn't necessarily want to be making profits for third-party shareholders. So the co-op was going to be quick to get up. We had a lawyer that was helping us that was an expert in cooperative law. And we thought that is so perfect for our model to do this actual development. We are the funders, we're the decision makers, we're the developers, we're the future residents. So it makes sense to use a co-op. And we've been totally delighted to use that co-op. In saying that, we didn't keep the co-op going for the actual members to sort of buy their land. So the co-op actually does the development of the land, organizes all the infrastructure and that. But when it actually comes to exchanging titles with people, people buy it, buy their lot, community title freehold. And so our lawyer said the best way to describe that to people is a bit like horizontal strata. And so people own a share of the whole, and then, of course, they own their little piece of it. And so, therefore, they can go to the bank and get a mortgage. And although the co-op, we don't have a mortgage, to do all the development, of course, people buying into the land may need to get a mortgage. So that's how we settled on the structure there.
Oh, you've described that so well. Thanks so much, Lyndall.
Yeah.
And so the membership share is your joint ownership of that communal land that the co-op owns?
Yes, that's right. Everybody buys $30,000 worth, 30,000 shares at $1 each. So there's been no change in the price, even though the project has been de-risked a lot, over the many, many years since 2012. And we have, and here it's not a greenfield. It was not a greenfield site. There are about 100 people worked here. So there's offices and there's sheds and hothouses and dams, and it's a beautiful, beautiful site with a lot of assets. So people actually buy into something of value when they buy their 30,000 shares. And then so it goes on. People will pay installments if they can. If they can't, we have a way of helping people until they get their title and get their bank mortgage.
Wonderful. And what do you have to do to stay a member?
Well, you join up because you want to be here. We have this kind of funny saying, tell people we're selling community and later on we'll throw in a lot or a block. And I think that's what it is. It is basically an intentional community. So anybody that's attracted to being here wants to be here for a purpose, and the purposes can be very different. We want our kids to be able to play freely, in a kind of it's semi-rural. We're surrounded on three sides by forest here, and the other side by suburbia, very close to a city called Gosford. Yep. So, or people might say, I just don't feel I can make a difference in the world by myself. I feel that if we join the Eco Village, there's a chance that we can all make a bit of a difference. And so different people join the co-op for very different reasons, but basically it's an intentional community. You want to be neighborly, so you have an intention to be in a community. If you are sort of somebody that liked to sit in a cave, you probably wouldn't come here.
Yeah.
So that's our overarching togetherness thing that kind of keeps us together. I guess it's the basic glue. That doesn't mean that we don't. It's utopia. It doesn't mean that we don't have different opinions. We do, because there's a lot of strong intellects and a lot of strong opinions here. And, there are people that hate dogs and cats, love dogs and cats, are vaccinated, aren't vaccinated, love signs, hate signs, and we navigate that. And we'll talk a little bit later. I think you wanted me to mention at some point about our governance model, which helps us navigate some of these issues that are certainly navigatable. And I feel if we can't navigate these, what chances will peace got, if we can't do it on this pretty small scale. So, I'm very committed to putting my efforts into helping peace here and thereby peace in the world,
Yeah, peace locally first.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a great way to segue into what governance looks like for you at Narara, because I think a lot of the concerns with cooperativism coming together in a cooperative format, whether that be in a business or in an eco-village, is that idea of making decisions as a group, which people don't have a lot of experience in their everyday lives, maybe just in their personal family, but the idea of extending that beyond to a greater group is a little bit nerve-wracking. And you've
Mm.
mentioned that people come to the community with, like, that's what they're buying into, so they're already going to be in that positive cooperative mind frame.
Mm.
But can you speak a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what decision making looks like at Narara?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely can. And I might also say, Molly, if you're interested or your members are interested, I'm more than happy to do a session called A Taste of Sociocracy for free, for any of your members, because it's something that I've done about 50 or 60 of them now. Because although I'm not a trained consultant, I really believe in this process and wanting to get it out, because I think it is such a contribution to peace, and to tranquility and harmonious being together in that. So the system of governance that we use actually fell into my inbox in about 2006, 2007, that a woman from somewhere near Washington, D.C. was coming to Perth, and that she was going to be talking about this method of governance called sociocracy, or in the States, they often call it dynamic governance, but we call it sociocracy. We're not too worried by the word soci anything, so it was just a very fascinating way for it to come in a perfect timing as we were sort of developing and gathering people together for this journey to here, Narara Eco Village. And so I was very taken by where its needles pointed. So its needles pointed to inclusivity and transparency and effectiveness. And I mean, if it's transparent and also effective, then I think its needle is pointed in a good situation. So basically it's a whole governance system. So it helps us with our structure, it informs our structure, it informs us who's going to be in the different parts of the organization. And it applies to an existing hierarchical organization, which of course most probably are. So it works nicely as a retrofit. You don't have to start from scratch. That's very powerful, I think, too. So it informs the structure that you might have and the people in it, and who might, be the kind of group leaders in that. And then it also instructs the way we do meetings. There are 4 stages of every meeting, and we go through those 4 stages with every meeting. And there are ways that we make decisions. So they depend whether it's a big issue or just a quick fix proposal, depends on 2 paths, and it's very easy to follow. If it's a big issue, you start with picture forming, which is all about brainstorming and getting as many different people with perspectives in the room, because you don't want to have just a narrow group in the room brainstorming, otherwise you're not going to get the full picture. And so then it continues on from there. Or it might be just a quick fix thing, the roof's got a hole in it, we have to spend public money or co-op money, are we happy with this, and then it might, so at the end of the day, you're asking a group of people to consent to this particular proposal, that we've got it, nutted it down to. And it's not, you're asking people, can you kind of live with this proposal? Can you, and if you can't, it has to be substantial objection and a reasoned objection. So we can't just say, I don't like that. It asks people to step up. And so, of course, we need to know, that all these different things, because we may be heading into a minefield, and it might be just this one brain over here that actually sees the minefield. So we actually want people to object, but it has to be reasoned, and it has to be kind of a substantial objection, not just a small objection. And so the objections help us to not dumb down our organization, to actually lift our organization by sort of seeing the world through all these different eyes. And then we consent to it. Once all those things have been ironed out, everybody consents to it. They ask, do you consent to this proposal?
Mm.
I mean, don't forget the proposals are all about the community stuff here. Nobody's telling me what color I can paint my bathroom, or you should see the tiles in my bathroom. I mean, nobody would have consented to those, and yet they are fabulous. So, I love my bathroom tiles. So we're talking about the area where we're trying to build up the we, the common part. So that's the basis of sociocracy. And I say, it is absolutely amazing. The more I dig into it, the more I get to understand it, the more enamored of the whole governance system I am. In saying that, do we still stumble and get things wrong? Definitely. But more and more that it's learning. Every time we stumble, we go, oh, I shouldn't have done it that way. Next time we'll do it this way. And maybe that's just the nature of going forward together. We've got to be gentle on ourselves and know that we'll make mistakes and stumble. But if more and more, if we have a commitment to a particular methodology that is transparent, that is effective and inclusive, then what more can we do but just keep following that until we see that it totally doesn't work. And here's an alternative, which hasn't happened to date.
Right. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. That's so great. And I'm thinking the commitment to transparency would keep that organisational historical knowledge going, and also when you stumble, give you the opportunity to reflect and say, oh, look at the minutes, this is what we did wrong, and let's further streamline the process to change the way we make decisions, or we'll educate your next decision making moment.
Yes, that's right. So Gina Price is a person that lives in Perth, and she's one of our sociocratic consultants. She's actually on our board at the moment. We're very lucky to have her. She's one of 7 directors. And so she helps guide us with that too. And in return, she gets to see how it's going, because it is a bit different to the old 52 want something, 48 don't want it, and the 48 have never been heard, and nobody's listening to them, and so then they undermine it for for the rest until it actually collapses. So Gina gets to see this live organization sort of using a methodology that she also is just dedicating her life to, really, her career life anyway. So so just keep in mind that I'm more than happy to do that, because I just think it's quite huge.
It's wonderful, and I will definitely recommend that people go to Narara's website to have a look at. You've got wonderful behind the scenes videos there that give a real sense of what it's like to live at Narara, and great explanations from you about the, more information about the structure. Is there any more space? Do you want more residents?
Oh, thanks, Molly. I mean, I think the key thing is this is a project and a place that people select into themselves, really. We do have a little process for joining, but basically people so want to live here, and in lockdown, there is actually a family coming from Victoria, they've signed up with their family, and they actually haven't been to site yet. Amazing. But like you say, there's plenty online, and there's plenty of Zoom sessions, and we have Zoom open days and things like that. Next year, all being well, we'll open right up again and have our open days face to face, and that, which of course is much, people get a sense of the land here too. But I think people get a sense of this project. Is it something that you're drawn to? And whoever is drawn to it, if they really, really want to be here, they'll be here. There are different ways, and you see that with people that are just so persistent, and they're going to get here one way or another, and that's the way, because the universe supports your greatest desires, I think. But if you're a bit sort of wishy-washy in your greatest desires, then it's not the signal that you're actually sending to to be able to get the help you need to get where you need to go, I suppose, Oh my God, I'm moving into a Sermon on the Mount. I better stop
Oh
right
my God,
now.
you are a paragon of eco-village living in Australia, so it's absolutely deserved. And if you don't mind me, just to wrap up, putting you on the spot here and asking about if you could think about an absolute magic moment for you, a moment that's just sort of crystallized in time and in your long journey of developing and bringing to life this amazing eco-village. Is there anything that jumps into your brain?
I think kind of my sweetest moments are seeing the children playing here, and kind of I didn't have that upbringing. I was brought up in Sydney, and even for my age, my parents were keeping us close. No, you can't ride a bike; it's a bit dangerous. No, what time will you be home? And to see these kids just kind of free ranging around here, and sort of being given different things by different people if their needs need it. And that I think that's a very sweet thing, and it's a very sweet thing to think that they'll be growing up in this environment with many eyes on them, but thinking they haven't got any eyes on them, that they're away from mum and dad, but
Yeah.
yet we're always constantly just watching them or, and wanting to support their journey, I think. So that's a great thing. And personally, of course, having some grandchildren here, that's even more highlighted for me, just to have to be able to see their upbringing in this intentional community.
Wow,
That'll do, Molly.
it's a wonderful achievement. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing a little snippet of your journey today.
That's great, Molly. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Bye,
it's a
everybody.
pleasure. Bye.